Yeah, because what you're saying is that ownership is part of the utility that then makes it so that this isn't just a cash grab; it's actually beneficial to you. So, in what ways does ownership equate value to the game player, the user, versus just the studio? Because I think that is fundamentally where the traditional gaming side and the Web3 gaming world completely diverge. So I gave one example at the top. You own the game. So even if you bought the digital game, you own it. So therefore, you can give it to somebody. You can sell it on an aftermarket. You can do whatever it is that you want with that game because it actually is yours. But then there's other examples like owning the in-game items. So rather than trying to do purchases that, basically EA does this all the time, Ubisoft does this all the time. You can buy these skins, you can buy these
Custom weapons.
Custom weapons. They're always thinking about just the DLCs. You get your DLC, and basically you almost have like a partial game, and then the DLC comes out, and then you have a more complete game. But inevitably, since you bought both of those as digital downloads, you don't own either of them. So you have a half game and then you have a complete game, but really you actually have no game at all. So this is a direct impact for the user that if these were all built as NFTs, so if the game was an NFT, if your items in the game were NFTs, then it would mean that you actually own those. Mm-hmm. You could sell them yourself on an aftermarket, and it would just completely change the way that you look at digital items just in general. And where this is a battle right now, I think, with the current established game studios is that, especially ones like Steam, because Steam used to be like, hey, we're fighting for the underdog. They pushed against doing this because it would eat into the profitability of the digital sales that they already have. And I got some fun stuff to go into on that note. Mm-hmm. But point being is that this actually, for the big guys, this is initially a potential hit because they are no longer the only ones in control of the market of digital goods. Now the users have control over the market of digital goods. Very similar again to how they used to have control when they would buy a game and then they were done playing it and decided to sell it on eBay or sell it back to the game store. So
right, and get ripped off in the process, of course.
And then get ripped off for sure. But at the same time, now we've got more of a educated. We have more of an educated population on how to sell things online versus what we had at that point in time. So then you make it possible to sell your digital items online. You bring that education into it as well because people already know how to do that. Mm-hmm. I think you're gonna have a much better economy for the players.
Well, and the creators are incentivized because users own this. I mean, they're incentivized to create value. They're incentivized to create long-term value propositions.
When you say the creators,
so people building a game or an experience, it's like, okay, because there's now this expectation that I own this, it's an asset, right? Mm-hmm. And if it's going down in value over time, then that changes your perspective of the ecosystem, of the game, of the experience, right? And so you want whatever value you've gotten out of the ecosystem to continue to grow, right? Whether it's tokens, whether it's characters, whether it's items, these things better be able to, and most of them, they're probably going to deflate in many ecosystems. And so that's something that people are still figuring out, but there is this incentive to continue to deliver value to the community and to give as much of the value share of the ecosystem to the community because everything's transparent now. Like what your game is worth on chain is straight up in people's faces. And because if people can sell it themselves and people aren't going to buy it for $5, then suddenly the open market gets to decide that you're not delivering enough value. And obviously this is something that's going to be worked out through a process of interacting with the community, but it does give this transparency. It creates this opportunity for people to really influence the value that is going to be created by a particular game or ecosystem. We had one question here that I thought was good. So Samet said, are you planning, where was it? His question was basically, is this going to be for, you think your audience will be blockchain guys who just try to play the game because it's on blockchain, or the real hardcore gamers? And I think what is cool is we've connected with a lot of people who are helping to bridge that gap, like Capé Lovely and other esports influencers, other people in the gaming space. We, just because of where we are, have been able to connect with a lot of people who are kind of treading that line. So I think we'll have an opportunity to break into more mainstream territory, especially because what we're doing is we're trying to make this accessible to mainstream people who may not be hardcore gamers, right? Because with the Passage platform, you can just jump in through a link. You don't need to have, this machine, right? Mm-hmm. You don't need to have a hardcore gaming computer. Right. You don't need to download 80 gigabytes of a game. You can just jump into a link and be right in this big, immersive Strange Clan world. So that's the benefit of Passage. Mm-hmm. And adoption is going to be a huge, huge feature of what we're able to do on that platform. So I'm optimistic that we will be able to create a process for educating and onboarding people from mainstream, from traditional gaming and things like that.
Well, the other thing kind of dovetailing, and this almost dovetails into a whole new point of what you were saying, Lex, was you were talking about like gamers getting, like hardcore gamers getting involved in blockchain and just building really good games that they want to play. A lot of the games that you look at in blockchain right now are very, very early concepts of games. They're rudimentary. They're very basic. Someone took a DeFi setup and just slapped a game on top of it. And and gamers are used to quality. Like if you look at the games that we have today, the quality is just phenomenal. The voice acting, the story, like you got to be able to meet that. And the games that are in the blockchain Web3 space don't. Largely. Right.
Well, we had the hype of NFTs over the course of 2020 and into 2021. And what I think is happening is that has now instilled in people, hey, we need to start seeing, like a lot of game makers are now seeing the benefits of being able to use blockchain. So we should actually touch on that real quick.
Yeah.
But let me just finish this point. Those game makers, if they're actually making a quality game, it's going to take a few years.
Oh, yeah.
So because that initially started in 2021, let's say, because that's really when the boom happened. So summer, I think I've seen many quality game makers start their process around February to March of 2021. And so if that's the case, then you have 3 years before they're actually going to come out with a quality game.
Yeah. And there are people who are early to that process, like Elliot Trades. He's building out a series of what he's calling AAA games that he says he's been developing for the last something like 3 years. Yeah. So we may have some of those people who are early to the party and are able to capture a huge audience because they actually deliver a quality title early on. But that just has to do with their, insight, foresight into the market.
Even now, we're just now getting to that point. Like we're just now getting to the point where games like what he's building, where games like Age of Rust, and Star Atlas are in the development process far enough that they can be like, hey, this is something we're building. And they've been working on those for years already. So it's going to take time for all of this, like us to get games that sort of match the what mainstream gamers are used to. And if 100%. if I'm a mainstream gamer used to playing games from AAA studios, and I go on and look at blockchain game, and the only thing I see that's really popular is Axie Infinity, which, not knocking Axie Infinity, what they've been able to accomplish, but if I'm used to playing Mass Effect or Dragon Age or whatever, or Witcher, all of those fantastic games, and I come and that's all that's available, I'm like, screw this. I'm gonna go back and play Mass
You
Effect.
basically
for the
at
fifth time.
that point don't really see the
That's just what I'm
value
gonna do.
of the game itself because it doesn't look fun, especially in comparison to the games that you're used to.